Hey y'all, I'm Ben. Thanks for popping by. Today I'm recording some inking. I'm actually inking this, and I just ramble a bit about, or I talk a bit about inspiration as distraction, inspiration as procrastination, kind of the difference between inspiration and reference, a little bit about my process around those two concepts, I guess. So hang out. Hopefully you'll enjoy the talk and hope you get something out of it. Thanks. All right, hi everybody. Um, Hopefully the audio will be a little bit better. Last time my setup is like right in front of my face while I'm drawing, so last time I think I spoke a little too quietly. We'll see how it goes this time. Also, still, God, man, allergies in Austin are so bad, and so I'm sniffly and constantly clearing my throat and whatnot. So hopefully that won't be a big deal. And if it is, I will have a time lapse of this video instead of the full length one. All right, I'm inking this Beorn page, which, man, I've been feeling really good finishing up this chapter. I'm almost done. I would say I'll definitely be finished with this chapter 4. That's the last one for my the Kickstarter book that I'm trying to finish up. It's supposed to be done already, but life, and it's been really awesome to get momentum going again. It's funny though, because I was talking to someone about it yesterday. Oh God, of course I always got faces to start on, and this page, it sits next. I was talking to my wife. I was talking to Audie about it. I said, I always try to fill pages with good establishing shots. Not even establishing, like, I like, of course, the concept of they are establishing shots, but I just like drawing backgrounds. I like, the forest, especially in Beorn, is I've always thought of it as its own character. But a bunch of the pages that I have going on right now are heads. And everybody always says don't start on faces, You're not warmed up and you need the face to look its best. And I used to just not care and do it almost out of spite. It was also I knew that I was going to mess something up probably early on, and so if I was going to mess something up and it was going to be, I may as well let it be the face. I feel like my light might be too bright. I guess it's just when I put my super white hand in front of it, then it readjusts. Okay. Oh, that was kind of cool how the Beorn revealed itself again. Let's see. Anyway, so I've got all these faces to draw here. Yeah. Anyway, so I've been super excited. I was talking to my buddy last night about how I don't know why all of a sudden I'm getting more done. I feel like I'm not doing anything differently, I tried working diligently and with focus last year as well, and there were times where I felt really good, like I was getting stuff rocked out, but for the most part, productivity was not great. So anyway, so it's exciting. I'm very happy getting these pages rolling. Yeah. I want to talk, this will be rambly again, but I posted something and I've been thinking about it. It's something I've talked to folks about before, but I haven't done a video on it. And it's this concept of, I don't know what to call it, but inspirational distraction, I guess. And first off, let me say, this is still me hashing through the thoughts. I know that it's not going to apply to everybody. I know that I'm right in a sense for myself, but I might not pick the right words, or it might not even apply to other people. So I know that. But I'm also interested to hear, other people's thoughts about how it, what you think about it. And so what it is that it's this idea that I have found myself at times looking for new books, pouring through art online, whether it's me digging through other people's Instagram, finding new people on Instagram, or I've got a big reference folder for myself already on my computer. So whatever it is, but just digging through, right? Spending my time being inspired. And I was cautioning to make sure you're being mindful that you're not just using that as a form of distraction or procrastination, and I think it can happen on not both, I don't know what the word is, not both sides of a project, but can happen at various times of a project, I'll say that. Because I know that whenever I was first working on Beorn, or whatever book, right, whatever I was planning to do at the time, that I would constantly find things that... Sorry, I'm turning this page a lot today. I don't know why. Maybe because I'm actually paying attention to what I'm talking about. One of these things is going to have to suffer, y'all. Sorry. I'm going to break that in a little bit. Oh, got to be careful. It's so close to that other line there. I don't know about that mouth. We'll see. Because that shadow there is sitting right around that. That's weird. I don't know. We'll see. See how I feel about it. Anyway, that I would spend a ton of time like looking at other stuff, right? Finding other books, constantly finding things that I was like, oh, I want to do that, oh, I like the way that they did this, whatever it was. And I gotta fill in that black to see what I think here. I mean, if it's not good, I'll just fix it later. Or rather, if I think I can do better, I'll just fix it later. I'm not going to fix anything right now. So I know that that's a factor. I know that, it's people filling, instead of just working on the thing, filling their creativity with how they think they'll work on it. And that's a legitimate thing. Like, let me make this clear that I know that there's a time for it. That's fine. Like, of course, we all do it, and you should do it, I'd say daily, really. Be inspired. Find the things that immerse you in your creativity, I guess. I don't know how to put it. But I think there's a big difference in once a project is going. Well, before we get to the once a project is going, we'll just keep on the keeping you from getting it going, right? That you get stuck in that, actually it's got to be similar to, I remember Jake Parker did a great video. Again, anybody that I reference on this, go check out their work. Jake has been instrumental in my growth as an artist, as a professional. Well, still feel awkward calling myself a professional, but wanting to make a profession of this. Anyway, he's a valuable resource, so go check him out. Anyway, he did a great video on the world building trap, and I was lucky. I don't think that hit me too much, but I definitely I recognize it. I see it because I have it with some other projects where it's like I just haven't figured out exactly what to do with it, and I probably should just pull the trigger on it, you know. Anyway, so the world building trap. So the early beginning stages of a project, you know, we have to do, you know, what do they call them in like in production studios and stuff? It's called like a mood board, or I don't know if a mood board or a dream board or whatever it is. I know one is, you know, very you know, it's what you do to turn your life around and make sure your day goes the way you want and all that. Who do I want to be in life? That kind of thing. So one of them is a dream board or a, you know, whatever. I can't remember the term. I'm sorry, guys. So whether it's a dream board or a mood board or whatever it's called, you know, production companies, they have that going so that everything kind of stays on brand, so to speak. And you know, you have to create that, I think. You know, maybe you'll create it as the project goes, so maybe even that, maybe there's an argument to be made for it. No, just get to work, you know. Anyway, so that is important. You need to do that initial reference, that initial building of inspiration. So that is there. I'm not denying that. I'm not saying that. But we can get stuck doing it. It's really easy to just keep finding more and more and not feeling ready. And so you think you got to keep hunting stuff down, you know. And so at a certain point we have to be honest with ourselves about, well, am I ready? Is it time? Could I do it? And so I think it can be a big, finding inspiration can be a big hindrance toward actually getting your project going. All right. And then during the project, and this was where I first thought about it. Someone else brought up, you know, having the problem at the beginning, that this kept them from getting a project going. For me, I was running into this problem early on, very early on, whenever I was working on Beorn and our kid was first born, and I didn't know how to work, really. Like, I didn't know how to get the most out of my day for productivity and how much I should expect and that kind of stuff. But any time that I wasn't getting enough done, I would be hit with this, you know, I don't know, a sadness, I guess, like an emptiness, right? Where I knew that I wanted more done. I knew that I wanted this certain thing. I wanted my project. And so we'd go to the bookstore, we'd go to Half Price Books. We got, I don't know where all it is, but we have an awesome chain of bookstores down here called Half Price Books, and can usually find really cool stuff. It's a great place to walk around. And that's our go-to kind of book shopping. But I'd be hunting, and I would be filling my arms with just tons of books. And luckily, more often than not, I would spend enough time doing that as we're hunting around that before we were done, I would start putting books away. I would just realize, like, I don't need this, I don't need this, I don't need this, I don't need this. And for me personally, it was a lot of, honestly, that word, that recognition of, I don't need it, all right? And then I got to ask, well, why'd I pick it up? Sure, I want it. That's the easiest fallback answer. But at its core, there was still this undeniable, like, well, I need something. That's why I was trying to get this. That's why I was trying to pick this up. And when I was honest with myself, I realized it came down to that need for my project. I needed my book, but I wasn't doing anything. I wasn't doing what I felt like was enough, you know? I didn't have my book, so I couldn't pick my book up. So it was this replacement enthusiasm or happiness or sense of accomplishment. I don't, it seems silly to say that because, of course, I didn't feel a sense of accomplishment from picking someone else's book up, but it's something like that, it's some sort of happiness derived from filling the gap that the absence of my book created. And so I was on the hunt, and it took a while before I really figured that out. I knew I would put books back, and then at a certain point, luckily being present enough, mindful in that situation, in that moment, I would recognize, oh, every time I do this, I've been kind of down about how much I feel like I'm getting done on my own project. And and that helped me a lot, that sometimes I'll catch myself hunting on Amazon or, whatever. I'm trying to find a replacement. And now, luckily, I know to be mindful of it. Like, well, did you get enough done? Do you feel like you're getting enough done? Because that's really what it is. If you're working, you're always getting enough done. Maybe you're not getting enough done for your timeline, but I truly believe that creative people are, if it's something they're passionate about, they're putting in as much as they can. Things might need to change in their life to allow them to do more. Those could be things in or outside of their control. But everybody who wants to see their project come alive, they're doing what they can. And they might need help figuring out how to adjust that if they care. Someone who finishes a page a week, that's great. If you're finishing, man, I am proud of you. It is the most difficult thing to do. And if you're struggling with not finishing, or you're struggling and that's causing you to not finish, however you want to look at it, if you are struggling, I'm also proud of you, man. No one knows what you're going through. I don't know what you're going through. We all just want to make our thing. Anyway, sorry. Well, no, not sorry. I told you I was proud of you. But, sorry to hit a tangent in my ramble there. Anyway, so yeah, this, inspiration as distraction. So, what's the difference then? Like, how do you fit in? Man, because, I constantly, because this is so new to me, I constantly have to look things up for reference, for, how do I do that? I think that might be the difference. And again, remember, guys, I don't want to speak in absolutes. I know it's not black and white, but maybe reference is more about how to do the thing rather than what to do. And I'm sure that that's a semantics argument that, you could probably use the two ways of talking about it interchangeably, but it's like inspiration is this, well, what do I do? I don't know what to do. What do I want to do? What happens next? All that kind of stuff, right? So we could simplify it, right or wrong, into the concept of what to do. The what of the whole thing, right? And then reference is involved during a project about how do I do that? And yeah, I don't think it's that we shouldn't look at things that inspire us while we're working on the project. You know what it is? It's like, and remember, I'm making my first book, so who am I? I don't know what I'm talking about. But, so like with Beorn, because it's the one I'm making, it's the one I'm drawing, I'm hoping you're here for that. Beorn is very much, it is a love letter to Calvin and Hobbes, to those early comic strips like that, and to Bone, right? Those are my two. Jeff Smith is without a doubt my biggest comic book influence, and with Bone, and Calvin and Hobbes is my biggest comic strip influence. Not just on Beorn, but I mean, this is just period that make up a huge part of my creative DNA. And this project just happens to be one where I decided to wear that on my sleeve. It's always funny to me whenever people come and they're like, "Man, this reminds me of Bone," and I'm like, "Why?" It doesn't. I do not draw like Jeff Smith. I mean, I use a brush or brush pens, I guess. So maybe there's some of that. It's this fantasy thing. I get it. But like when I look at my work and the story, I'm like, well, I guess thank you. I mean, it's always thank you. I appreciate that, man. You compare it to something I love that much. Oh my God, thank you. But it's funny to me, And then same thing. Even though even I messed it up. Even though Beorn is just this little blonde kid, right? It could very easily be Calvin as a Viking. My drawing is so different from Watterson's to me, right? Because I have stared at his pictures way too much. It's different. Anyway, so those are my love letters, right? That is the stuff that I can turn to for inspiration. That project that fits the mood of that project. And that's the truth, anybody that ever sees me if I travel for a show or something like that, I've always got, usually it's the first Bone book. It's usually out from Boneville. This is my absolute favorite, and I've got some kind of Calvin and Hobbes book with me. And I just love them, right? And so it just so happens that that's the stuff that's also tying in with my project. They're the things that, comics-wise, just make me happiest. And so I think that's good. Sorry, moving the camera here so I can work in on these. That when I'm drawing or just sort of in the general feel of it, like that's what I want to be immersed in. I want to be immersed in my inspiration, right? Now when I'm writing, whenever I'm actually writing Beorn stuff, or trying to, writing I guess is the best way to put it, thinking about what's coming next and that kind of stuff, I actually try to shy away from spending too much time reading Bone or Calvin and Hobbes then. Maybe it's a subject matter thing, right? Because usually that's what it is. Usually I'll find myself being more immersed in, Norse fairy tales. Friends of mine who I've been lucky enough to meet who have blogs or write articles for, Norse history and stuff like that. Like, I'll try to read that stuff. And a lot of that is just straight, it's not a subject I know a ton about. It's a subject I'm learning about as I'm working on this. And so as I'm writing, I want to be immersed in the feeling of that subject matter. So something different than whenever I want whenever I want to be immersed in the feeling of the comic, of the project. So anyway, so I definitely feel like you should, or you will need to. I'm not trying to say don't look for inspiration. I guess that's all I'm trying to say. Of course, we are looking for inspiration. So, and then for reference, like I'm constantly having to look up reference. I constantly don't know what I'm doing. And that's, I mean, I wish I had a better understanding of how to bring things to life on a comic page. I feel like I've done a decent job filling in my knowledge of what works and what doesn't, whether I execute it well or not. But I often run into the, I know what I want. This should be a nice, an epic angle showing whatever, right? And then I sit down and I read my script and I go, I have no idea how to actually draw what I was thinking about drawing here. Actually, funny enough, came up recently. I wonder if that's because I don't see images in my head. I forget what it's called. Someone was talking to me about this recently, and I actually, whenever I think about things, I don't see images. It's I don't know how to describe it, but it's like I don't see anything. And someone was like, "Oh, that's called something," but I don't remember what it is. And so it kind of brought to a head, made sense of whenever I've heard people talk about the, oh, I just don't know how to get the image from my head on the paper. And I would agree, and oh yeah, I hear what you're saying. Because that's the reality for me too. I don't know how to get the image from my head onto the paper. But I realized, because there is no real image in my head. I don't see a thing. Like, I don't know how to describe it. Anyway, so maybe that has to do with my struggle with it. But I also just think, I'm new to it. I'm not a master of this craft. It's not easy to me. It's not. I don't have all the tools of the language in my, whatever you call it, in my lexicon, or however you put it. So anyway, I constantly have to. I'll go look through books, right? Where's someone who laid out a shot, the way that I'm talking about laying out a shot, and then I will try to find multiple examples of something like that. And I think that what that does for me is that fills in the I don't have an image in my head, and so I'm putting those images in my head. I have no built-in reference, so I have to go look that up. So I don't just mean like I don't know how to draw a wagon from that time period. Like, I get that. That's, you gotta look up reference for that. Unless you've done it a bunch. But framing shots and stuff like that, like I gotta look a lot of that up sometimes. Sometimes. It's not always. And it'll take one little thing. Like, I'll see the line of the landscape go, where it sits in relation to the character, and I'll go, oh right, that's more dramatic. That's whatever it is. Anyway, I don't have solid examples, but so that's reference, right? And I'm constantly having to look up reference. So you've got reference and inspiration, and we have to be careful about how much we fall into filling our creative time with immersing in, immersing in the hunt, I guess. I don't know how to put it. Because you should be immersed in your inspiration for sure. I think that'll help, you know. Surround yourself with your mood board, however you want to look at that. Honestly, kind of forgot where I was going. Oh, you know what? I know where I was going with this. I don't mean this in any sort of slight. When any of us hit that phase where we're just not getting as much done, right? I know that sometimes we're not going to finish as much, so we're going to have a hard time, whatever, right? Anyway, I know that burnout is real. I know that. I mean, God. Anyway, I know that sometimes it's not that simple. So if you're wrestling with any of that, man, I'm not trying to say just get more work done. I know the reality. I get it. So please don't take it that way. But there is a real inspiration of value on a deep level, and it might be the most inspiring thing to be finishing your project, to be finishing what you want to work on, right? And I know that that's also when you're not. That's where that drain comes from, man. I get it. And so the worst thing in the world would be to just say, like, so you just need to finish more, right? Please don't take it that way. But the more I have, the times when I'm creating the most, I don't need inspiration. It's like it's just there. You know, it's not even because there have been plenty of times where it's also just man, you just punch the clock. Right? Like, I need to get this done today. I worry maybe there's another conversation to be had there, that as you start hitting that point, you're on the path to burnout. I don't know. That's how I felt it worked for me. But finishing any little bit of it, I feel like that, I don't know what it's called. It's that part inside of us that says I have to create. That it's not an impulse even. It's a I don't know, calling. I don't know what to call it. I'll have to come up with cool words for all this stuff. Everybody likes cool catchphrasey words. It's that part of you, you know. And that part, when it's fulfilled like that, it's like you don't need inspiration. The thing is happening. I should use a bigger pen for that. It was inspiring enough. Like, for me, what I find is there is no greater inspiration than seeing my pages done. And I'm sure hopefully you all understand what I'm saying. I don't mean this in any sort of, bragging sort of way, that I'm inspired by my work. I'm inspired by seeing that I'm working. I'm inspired by finishing. And more than any book I've ever bought, more than any picture I've ever found, seeing a stack of my own pages is huge. It gives me more drive to finish the next page than anything else does. Period. And so I guess if I had to boil down this whole talk, it would be something in that concept, right? The idea of being inspired by your own work and being mindful of the times that you hunt for inspiration outside of that, to first look and see, am I trying to fill some sort of gap, some sort of emptiness that is created by my own lack of creating? And go from there. Because if you look at it, and of course, man, if you look at it and you go, no, I'm pretty happy with how much I'm finishing, Ben. I think you're way off base here. Then you're not in that point, that you're not at that place that I'm talking about, and it doesn't apply. I like reading stuff. I mean, I just picked up some new stuff a while ago. I like comics. I like reading. We just have to know. Anyway, we just have to be mindful of that. We just have to be mindful of that. That is all I guess I'm trying to say. Why do I always put the shadow of his mouth too dang close to the shadow of his neck cloak thing? Benjamin, you've got to fix that. Well, I'm going to keep working for another hour. I'll have to see what else pops in my brain here. I really like that idea of your project as a love letter. I'll often say it. That took me a long time there too, guys. Y'all shouldn't say guys. Know that when I say guys or dude or bro or any of that stuff, in my mind, there is no, if this is something that bothers you, there is no masculine quality about it in my head. I call my daughter bro. It's my own thing. Anyway, so if I say guys, I'm talking to everyone. I feel like we have to qualify that these days. Sorry. Anyway, I like the concept of the love letter project, right? And maybe because I came to drawing on I think everybody wrestles with style, right? And because I came to art more as an adult, I didn't start drawing really until I was into my 30s. I hadn't drawn since, I think I drew a little bit in high school. I remember drawing some pictures for friends, and I drew when I was a kid. But then I just stopped. No reason, just life, playing sports, hanging out, partying, whatnot. So I came back to it as an adult, and it was almost like, I think all the things that artists wrestle with kind of crammed into a short period of time for me. So I had to wrestle with, I would draw, and I loved Bill Watterson, who also, everybody, it's like almost all the artists who I love now, we all share that root love, right? Or some other root love, I love Pogo from Walt Kelly, and so does Jeff Smith, so it's like that all kind of tracks together, which makes sense, right? But anyway, I would draw a picture, and I first started, I was going to Comic-Cons and selling fan art, so I wasn't doing my own characters even, and it would, in the beginning, it bothered me so much when someone would say, oh man, this looks like Scotty Young, or oh, this makes me think of Calvin and Hobbes, or it just, it would break me, you know, because I didn't think so. I knew that they were an influence, and I knew that it was in there. I knew that I had learned which tools to use from some of the from them, and I of course was drawing in a way that captured that sort of aesthetic because it's what I liked. Why would I draw something that I didn't like? Why would I draw it in a way that I didn't like? And I often, or not often, anyway. So it took a long time to be comfortable with the comparisons. It really took a long time. And on the other side of it, though, was that realization, I mean, almost like I was just saying there, of why would I draw in a way that I don't like? If this is the art that I like, why would I purposefully say, well, I like that, but I don't want to get compared to that. Let me do it differently, right? And what I learn over time is that, you know, most people, they see a very surface level comparison because they don't know what they're looking at. Again, because like when I look at my art, if someone says, you know, oh, this really looks like Bill Watterson did it, you know, or something. People don't usually say it looks like Bill Watterson did it, but this reminds me of Bill Watterson, right? That part of me, you know, of course, is very appreciative again. Like I'm like, man, that's awesome. If it makes you feel that, for how I love that person's work, I couldn't be happier to think that I could make you feel that way. That's awesome. But then on the other hand, I scoff because I'm like, I look nothing like that. You know, let me get out a Calvin and Hobbes book and do a little class. Let's get a little class session going here for you, so you can see how wrong you are. Let me show you how his brush strokes look. You know, whatever. And I don't remember anyway. I should do that, actually. I should do some videos of Calvin and Hobbes walkthroughs. That would be great. I've got a couple things that I'm thinking about doing like that. Anyway, so it took a long time to be comfortable wearing that influence on my sleeve, right? And in just my art. And then the same thing with stories. Like, how much do I want my comic to make people go, well, this comic is just like, you know, it's like Calvin Hobbes, or it's Bone, or it's a... And that was where the line kind of came from me. It's like, your story should be your story, right? Your art might be inspired by something. Even your story might be inspired by something, right? It's an adventure comic. Okay, I get it. So you have those kinds of elements. But, I don't know, if your story is not your story, why are you telling it? So, I don't know where else to take that. I don't want to, you know, if you're out there trying to do your modern Calvin and Hobbes or whatever, I don't want to say, nah, you shouldn't do that. But it's true, right? Like, Calvin and Hobbes has already been done. You know, a great example of that is Calvin and Hobbes, where he shied away from it because he felt like the kids' comic strip had been done to perfection. I don't know if he said perfection, but, you know, it had been done. The material had been exhausted by Charles Schulz. So Peanuts, right? And, I mean, he could have left it at that. But look how different those two things are. So look how wrong he was, Bill Watterson, thinking, well, I don't want to do a kid's strip because, you know, Charles Schulz already rocked it with Peanuts, right? And then the same thing, Will Henry. I was lucky enough to meet him a long time ago at a Rhode Island Comic-Con, and he was incredibly supportive. And I met him before he was doing Wallace the Brave. If you have not checked out Wallace the Brave, go check out Will Henry's work. Go read Wallace the Brave. It's another kid's comic strip, and I don't know what he wrestled with it. I've read a couple interviews with him, and I feel like he expressed something along this line. If you didn't, I'm sorry. Sorry to put words in your mouth. But he had to wrestle with that same thing, I'm sure. I'm going to do this comic strip about kids. I'm going to get compared to Calvin and Hobbes. Can I do it better? Can I bring anything new? What's it going to be? And I feel like he really has. I feel it's totally different. Even in the moments where one of the characters, usually Wallace, is very rambunctious, Calvin-esque, I guess. I don't want to use that. I don't want to say that. But whenever he is Calvin-esque in his behavior, he's not. It's so unique, right? And so it's fine to have your thing that you're like, well, I'm going to do this genre and tell your own story. That's great. Go do it. I'm not saying don't tackle subject matters that have already been done. I mean, if people did that, we wouldn't have Bone, right? Jeff Smith wouldn't have made the. You often hear people call it the Lord of the Rings of comics. We wouldn't have it. So anyway, do that. Don't shy away from that. And with the idea of your love letter, you can set that inspiration and constantly imagine. It's funny to think about it that way. It's like, this is my love letter to that thing. And so every time you're going and hunting down inspiration, were you just cheating on that thing? Or, was this a platonic relationship? No. We were just having lunch, right? We were just hanging out. That's silly. Oh, I need an editor. All right. Thinking about inspiration just had me thinking about some of the comics that I'm looking forward to reading. I have things that I shy away from as I'm working on Beorn, because even if I have not read it, especially when other people bring it up to me in the context of it reminding them of Beorn, I don't want it to influence my further creating, and I'm very excited because I finally picked up Nausicaa. So I started reading the first trade long ago, and I just never I didn't get around to finishing. And I think it was because it had inspired so many other people, and I didn't want it to change my focus. I didn't want to add anything and overtly know that it had come from Nausicaa. I don't know how to put it. Because there's that line, right? And this is the line we all worry about, where were you inspired, or did you just rip it off? I don't know what else to call it. Plagiarize, that's the politically correct term there. And it's tough, that you see that thing and it hits you in such a way that you love it. Whether it's Hellboy or Calvin and Hobbes and Bone, that kind of stuff. I read it all the time. How do you make sure? You have to be incredibly present. You have to be incredibly mindful to know that thing that I loved about it, I didn't bring it in, right? It's okay. Just love it from afar, right? I feel like all this talk of inspiration is maybe a deeper thing than I was ready to get into. Maybe Q&A is better for something like that. Which, hey man, throw it in the comments. Let me know what you think. Let me know where I was way off base. I'm sure I will play this back and listen and go, that didn't make any sense at various parts. So, feel free to do the same. We'll hash through it together. I'll have to see how quickly I can get through pages. I never really want to record for longer than an hour. I try to really only do an hour at a time. I think your brain fries. Your ability to work deeply with concentration gets shot if you overdo it. And I set myself an hour. I'll have to, maybe I'll do a video of my sort of how I go about it, because I have my various tasks lumped into different, it's either important or it's urgent or it's necessary, and then I keep track of, I'll write down what I accomplished. Yeah, maybe I'll do a video of that. I'll do a video of that. What's funny is it's always right about this point. I paused at a certain moment throughout to go check on Eva while she's getting Bluey time while Daddy works. Actually, it was Sesame Street first, and then it was Bluey. But she just hollered for me. She always hollers right about the almost 1 hour mark. It's pretty nice. It's convenient. I don't even need to set a timer, I guess. Anyway. I'd like to get to where I could ink a page within an hour. Some pages are, I don't know, man. They are tough, though. Like, this was heads, which is, I agonize over. I always want to make sure I do a good job with facial expressions. Yeah, maybe one of these days I'll actually finish the whole page within an hour for you guys. Oh, I forgot to show my tools too. I go back through with these guys and put a, well, actually I guess it needs to go this way. Put a, no, wait, which way does it need to go? I record upside down and then I flip these. Anyway, I go back through. Some artists, man, they can leave that little white spot in the eyes and that kind of, they can work around their inks, and I'm just gonna go back through things and touch it up. It's just easier. I'll hit, different areas of, like, the trees and stuff like that too with them. Anyway, this will be the last little thing that I do here. When I share it, I'll give a little teaser image, and then I always share the finished pages on my Patreon. I was thinking again about doing Beorn in black and white. Do a black and white version of it as a webcomic or something like that. Get a little ink smudge there. I initially planned on doing Beorn in black and white. I mean, again, because I loved Bone so much. Thought about just doing my own little indie comic. And then I slapped some color on there one day and realized that, as she is with most things, my wife was right. That coloring it would give it more of an animated kind of quality, and people would like that, and I would like that, so that's where we landed. Anyway, so finished up that hour. I will finish this guy up after a little stretch break, and I'll talk to you guys soon, man. Thanks for listening while I was hashing through some of that stuff. I feel like I got a lot to, I write a lot, so I'm probably going to spend some time actually writing these thoughts down about this. It's something that's been important to me. It's helped me whenever I find myself going down that road of inspirational distraction. I wrote that it can be the most devious distraction, because you feel like you're doing things that you need to do, but you don't need to do them. You need to work. You need to finish. And if you're burned out, I feel for you, and what you need to do is just step away. If you feel like drawing something else, draw something else. And if not, go recharge. You've depleted your creative energies, and that's a very real thing, and you need to find the way to dig yourself out of it. So I would say don't even hunt for inspiration to help you keep working on your current project. You just need to stop. You do. You really do, for your health. For your mind. Needs a break. Anyway, maybe we'll talk about burnout at some point too. It's a little too close for me still right now, so it's kind of tough to talk about. Anyway, all right, man. Thanks, y'all. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. We'll throw out some YouTube Live or some Twitch or something like that. I guess I shouldn't say Twitch if I'm gonna be posting this on YouTube. Anyway, thanks, y'all. Hey guys, thanks so much again for popping by. Thanks for hanging out. Hope you got something out of my rambly talk there. It's something I'm still trying to digest. So, if you have thoughts about it, please let me know in the comments. Either times that you've kind of noticed the same thing from yourself, or maybe other things that you do too. I know, I touched on the idea of the world building trap, but then this whole thing of inspiration is finding other material, other books, other art to keep you sort of distracted and procrastinating from what you instead of working on your project. So if you have other things in mind, or if you just felt I was way off base, or if you can relate, let me know. So it kind of helps guide my my thinking on the topic there as I'm working through it myself. But again, thanks so much. Really appreciate you stopping by. I'll see you next time.